Our meeting needs to pave way for an unconditional ceasefire that facilitates unhindered humanitarian access and ensures protection of civilians, stops loss of life, destruction of property, and critical infrastructure, and enables the people of Sudan to access public services. Secondly, the structured commencement of 3 pathways towards conflict resolution and the restoration of the voice and aspirations of the people of Sudan for a democratic transition. And I recommend as follows. Track 1, establishment of safe humanitarian corridors. 2, mediation between the leadership of SAF and RSF so that we can stop the war. And number 3, commencing all-inclusive dialogue aimed at restoring Sudan to democratic governance. I believe this approach reinforces the search for peace and will allow progress that lays a firm foundation for a peaceful and stable Sudan. I appreciate efforts made by the IGAD heads of state and government, both collectively and individually, as well as our partners, notably the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for standing in solidarity with the people of Sudan during this crisis. We cannot fail in this endeavor. I therefore look forward to our engagement providing a roadmap towards a lasting and sustainable peace in Sudan. On 12th of June 2023, the IGAD Assembly of Heads of State and Government, having considered the situation in Sudan, established a high-level IGAD mechanism of 4, the Quartet, to engage in an effort to resolve the situation in Sudan. I am delighted to convene this first meeting of the Quartet today. In this regard, I welcome the members as well as the representatives of the 2 parties in Sudan. I also note and wish to thank all the partners that have joined us at this meeting. Pursuant to our decision in Djibouti, our Ministers of Foreign Affairs convened on the 19th of June this year. There has been a number of engagements aimed at securing a cessation of hostilities and commencing dialogue at various levels. During this period, I have also undertaken consultations with a number of neighboring countries, including Egypt, Eritrea, Chad, Central African Republic, as well as the African Union Chair, the President of Comoros, and of course, many hours of planning with my brother, Prime Minister Abiy. In all the instances, there has been a strong emphasis in support of the IGAD effort to end the conflict, address the worsening humanitarian crisis, and facilitate engagement in an inclusive political process that restores civilian governance to Sudan. The situation, ladies and gentlemen, in Sudan is grave. As the conflict continues unabated, we are witness to its devastating impact on the people, on Sudan, and on the region. To date, the number of displaced individuals have surpassed the 2.9 million. More than 2.2 million people are internally displaced, while over 640,000 have sought refuge in neighboring countries. I strongly condemn this senseless violence, the brutal attacks on civilians, including women and children, and the extensive destruction of property and infrastructure that is threatening the nationhood of Sudan and spurring uncertainty across our entire neighborhood. The atrocities in Darfur are alarming. The targeted interracial attacks are particularly concerning, as they steadily spiral into a humanitarian catastrophe. Our meeting must address this unfolding situation. Critical is the need for an immediate assessment of the security and humanitarian situation with a view to ensuring that action is taken to protect the civilian population. While the crisis in Sudan continues to escalate, the response remains inadequate. In spite of the various challenges on the ground, it is incumbent upon us and the international community to scale up assistance to the affected populations. Given the negative effects of the crisis on the ground throughout the Horn, the Red Sea and the Sahel, humanitarian assistance should also be extended to the neighboring nations with a particular focus on the vulnerable groups, including women, children, and people living with disability. I am happy that Martin Griffith is in our midst today, and hopefully he can work with the region to urgently scale up humanitarian operation. Despite several initiatives to silence the guns, including the Jeddah rounds, for which we as a region thank the United States of America and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the conflict, however, continues unabated, threatening to fragment the Sudan. We must not allow such a tragedy to happen. As we all know, violence begets violence. Our meeting must call for the immediate cessation of hostilities. Failure to do this, we must also consider the next steps, including measures to protect lives and guarantee humanitarian access. Our mechanism also has a mandate to undertake concrete steps in support of an inclusive civilian Sudanese process towards sustainable peace.